Good evening, everybody, and welcome to The Right View. I'm Lara Trump, and I am so honored to have a very special guest with me this evening. He really needs no introduction, but 75 million of you out there voted for him. You've been dying to hear from him. So here with me this evening, I'm honored to have our 45th President of the United States, my father-in-law, President Donald J. Trump. Well, I just want to start by asking you the question that I get asked the most. Everyone wants to hear, how are you doing? How has it been down here?
Well, it's been great. It's Florida. It's a beautiful state. It's a well-run state. We had a tremendous election result in Florida, as you know, despite millions and millions of dollars being spent against us. And we had a big victory, I guess unprecedented victory, and as we did in many states, and we should have had in all states. But I guess that's still, in my opinion, being looked at by a lot of people. It was disgraceful what happened. That was a third world country voting system, and it's a shame. It's an absolute shame, but it's being looked at by a lot of different people. But we had a fantastic election. You know, I say I ran twice, and we did better the second time by a lot, by 12 million votes. And but I love Florida. It's just a spectacular place.
Yeah, well, a well-run state, we would say. I want to ask you, because it took 65 days for Joe Biden to finally come out and do a press conference. I know you've talked about this a little bit, but you were so transparent with the media. And whether they loved you or hated you, you were always happy to go up to them. I remember you would walk out as you were on the way to Marine One and say, let's go, ask me questions, no note cards, nothing. We saw the press conference that Joe Biden had, if you can even call it that. He had a lot of notes. He had printouts with people's faces and names on it, who to call on, who not to call on. What was your takeaway from that press conference?
Well, I think the press conference is probably the least of it. People saw a lot of things happening long prior to the press conference, and even the trip up the stairs, up and down, 3 times. There were a lot of things are going on. So we'll see what happens. I hope he's in good shape. I hope he's okay for the sake of the country.
Yeah.
But I think people get it. And, you know, I think very importantly, the things that he said, and whether we debated or whether he just made statements, all of those things were not what he's doing. This is more liberal, more radical than Bernie Sanders ever had in mind. Bernie could not be happier. But this is something Bernie would have never suggested what's happening. He never talked about what he's doing to destroy energy, and the Second Amendment now is going to be next. They're going to destroy the Second Amendment. All of the things that they're doing are things, raise taxes at a level, the biggest tax increase in history. Those were not things that were discussed at all during the election.
Yeah, well, you brought up a good point. It was actually a little upsetting as an American to see him trip up the stairs so many times. But the media coverage of that versus the way they covered you, every year being obsessed with your physical. I remember when you were at West Point walking down a slippery slope, you know, there were no handles on either side. I know you had slippery shoes on. So you took your time to go down. For a week straight, all they talked about was, are you fit to be president of the United States? Which we know is absolutely ridiculous. But they haven't given the same treatment or scrutiny to Joe Biden when it comes to that. I think Americans are a little bit frustrated by that, and I think we should be demanding transparency, especially when it does come to the health of the President of the United States.
Well, you know, when you do speeches, you sort of know if you did well or not well or however it is. And I think I made my best speech, or certainly one of them, at West Point. And it's pouring, raining, beautiful but raining, and it's wet. And it was just a sheet of steel, no pleats in it, no nothing. And it was like an ice skating rink. And the last thing I wanted to do was go down. And I saw that, and they had no railings, really brilliantly, you know, put up. Whoever put it up ought to be ashamed of themselves. So I'm next to a general who has big rubber shoes on, and a good guy, by the way, the commandant. And I say, General, I'm not grabbing you, but I may have to grab you because this is a sheet of ice. So I went down inch by inch like this. I should have just run down the stairs.
You could have.
They made such a big deal, and they never covered my speech. That was, I thought, one of the best speeches, and they never covered the speech. Never even discussed it. I didn't see it. All they do is they have me walking down inch by inch down this ramp. I said, the next time have stairs, please. And it was one of those things. But they covered that for weeks. And this guy falls down 3 times. He couldn't get up. The 3rd time, he didn't know where the hell he was. And it was not on the evening news, other than a couple of networks.
Yep.
But it wasn't on ABC, CBS, NBC, I don't think. And it got almost no coverage. It's incredible. Now, everybody got to see it because one thing, it gets out there one way or the other. But it was actually a pretty sad situation, if you want to know the truth. It was also sad from the standpoint that we don't have freedom of the press anymore.
Yeah, well, that is for sure.
I mean, I remember when Gerald Ford fell down the stairs. That was such a big deal. Well, actually, it helped ruin his presidency. You want to really know the truth. I think it was really, every time you see him, they show him now falling down the stairs. And with Biden, they don't want to show it at all. It is a dishonest media that we have.
Yeah, well, they certainly allowed him to go unchecked throughout the campaign. They never called him out on anything. We know that big tech, social media outlets were censoring things. Jack Dorsey of Twitter just recently said that it was a mistake to censor the Hunter Biden laptop story during the campaign, which we all knew was such a big deal. We all knew could be used against the Biden family, Joe Biden, should he ever become president of the United States. But maybe give me your take on where we stand in terms of censorship for conservatives, because we are censored. There is no question as conservatives. We are censored on social media. They are always fact-checking everything. I feel like you might have something coming up. I don't know if you're ready to make an announcement yet, but that will help allow conservatives to have freedom of speech, maybe a possible social media platform. Well,
I think the censoring really, when they didn't show Hunter Biden all of the things that were happening with Hunter, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to get somebody in trouble. He had some difficulties, okay? Yeah. But when they didn't show any of that during the campaign, they just cut it out, like canceled, I guess. You'd call it cancel culture, right? But when they didn't show that, to me, that was really the beginning, because it was bad. It's been fake for a long time. But it used to be fake where they'd come up and I'd come up and you'd fight, or somebody else, but you'd fight. And the public can believe one way or the other. They might believe me, they might believe the other side, or they might believe an anchor or whoever's into. But they didn't bring Hunter up. It was just really canceled. And later on, polls came out that showed it would have made a 10-point difference. A 10-point difference. That's a lot of difference. Mm-hmm. To me, that's where it actually began, this new phase. The new phase is you have something, and they won't put it out. And that's whether it's scandalous or whether it's anything, whether it's just good news, they won't put it out. And it's a very interesting time. Now, we're getting it out. I'm getting word out by using press releases. I put it out by a press release, and everybody's picking it up. It's more elegant as a president, et cetera, et cetera. To me, it's more elegant. I think it's getting the word out about the same. You do less of it because, it's a little bit, and you can do longer. You can make it a little bit longer. Not that it should be that much longer. Usually it doesn't have to be too much longer, but you can do it longer. And I think we're getting the word out. And in addition, I'm looking at, everybody wants me to be on the site because we had 90 million people on one. We had, I think, 36 million people on POTUS. We had sites of 10. That doesn't include Facebook. And then we had one of the biggest on Facebook, maybe the biggest, but one of the biggest on Facebook. So we had, 200 million people, I guess, or more. Mm-hmm. So everybody wants me to go in their site because the problem is they have sites, but they have no people. And Twitter has gotten very boring because I can see Twitter anytime.
Because you're gone. They missed you.
Well, it's said to have gotten very boring, and a lot of people are leaving Twitter. But it's become boring and really not. The point of view is terrible, and people are leaving Twitter. A lot of people are leaving Twitter. So I think there's room for something, and I bring a lot of people with me. But we'll see. I must tell you, I love what we're doing now. I'll put a statement or two out, or 3 or 5, but I'll do them in a day, and I'll just dictate something out, write it out, put it out, and I do it in the form of a press release. It gets picked up by everybody.
So maybe we don't even need social media. You're gonna go this route,
I don't
perhaps.
think we do, and I may be wrong, but I don't think we do. But I think social media has become so corrupt that people aren't believing it anymore, really. I mean, a lot of it has become very corrupt. It's really become like the media itself, very corrupt.
That's true.
We don't have freedom of the press anymore. You know, we had freedom of the press, and it's a terrible thing to say, but we really don't have freedom of the press anymore. We have a corrupt press with a point of view, and that's all they want to do is sell the point of view. And why they want to sell it, because when you think of it, defund the police, open borders. Look at our borders. Look what's happening. We had the borders the best they've ever been. The wall could have been finished in a very short period of time, a matter of weeks. Just close up the little sections that we had to leave open to bring equipment back, et cetera, et cetera. And the wall could have been finished so quickly. The wall is the best thing. We built almost 500 miles of wall, and it's been a tremendous success. And all they have to do is finish it up. Now, you can put security there and you have it fine, but the wall is better than anything you can do. It's really worked. But we have the best southern border in terms of what we're talking about that we've ever had. And in one day, he said, everybody come up. And once he said that, and what's going on now is nothing compared to what's going to take place during the summer. Mm-hmm. During the summer, you're going to see things that nobody's ever seen before.
It's very upsetting, very hard to see.
Well, it's very dangerous, and it's very bad for our country, and they're destroying our country.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, by the way, that we're allowing illegal immigrants to pour over our southern border, it seems like the woke left is focused more on things like canceling Mr. Potato Head, canceling Dr. Seuss books, than actually doing things that are going to positively impact the American people. Meanwhile, our adversaries like China are working overtime to build up their economies, to do things for their people. How do you think we're being viewed right now around the world, whether by our adversaries or our allies? How do you think the United States is regarded right now?
I think that they can't believe what's happening. They don't believe it. They don't believe. Can you imagine China looking at us and they're talking about Dr. Seuss, and that was like the big thing of the day? But it's long beyond Dr. Seuss. They want to take down monuments to heroes. They want to get rid of our history, obliterate our great history. Whether it's good or bad, you learn from it. You have to learn from history.
Right.
And some is bad, and some is good. I would say most of it's good, but they want to obliterate our past. And once you do that, you don't have much of a country left. I think that China is very happy now, and I think that Russia and a lot of other countries are very happy. They're looking at what's going on, and they don't believe it.
Yeah, it's very scary. I think for a lot of Americans, they don't know where we will be ultimately. I think they felt very safe with you as president. You protected our country, whether it was our southern border, whether it was standing up around the world to people that meant us ill. And now we don't really know where we are. I want to move on to something.
By the way, built the strongest military.
Yes.
We rebuilt the military. We have a military now like we've never had before. The equipment is the best, all made in the USA. We have Space Force. We did so much. Biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation cuts in history. And that's why the base is so strong right now. That's why the base of the country, our base is strong, but the base of the country is strong. The foundation is strong. Right. And that's why it can do so well, where we have the highest stock market we've ever had. But that's going to erode, just like energy. Mm-hmm. We're energy independent. In 3 months from now, we won't be energy independent because of what they're doing. And they never talked about this. They never said this. In fact, they said the opposite. They really lied during the campaign a lot about a lot of things.
They did. Well, we see gas prices already starting to go up, so it's already starting to
happen.
Very
substantially.
So I want to ask, because people ask me this too, will we ever be able to attend another Trump rally?
Oh, yeah, sure. I think so. In fact, we're thinking about doing one relatively soon, just to let everybody know that there's hope in the future. Look, when you look at what's happening to our country with all of the ideas and things, when you look at these Democrat-run cities where the crime is up 300, 400, 500%, and they don't do anything about it, shootings, killings, murders, rapes, they're up to 200%, 250%. No, it's a shame. What's going on is just very sad. Democrat-run cities.
Yeah.
And now, if you have a Democrat-run country, watch what's going to happen. It's bad.
So we might be able to attend a Trump rally.
Sure. I mean, sure. I love doing them, but more importantly, I think we get the word out. That's incredible. When we have rallies, you know if you won a state. Yeah, I can tell if we're going to win a state by a rally. When we set up a rally 24 hours before and we have 35,000, 40,000 people show up, In Florida, we had 55,000. In Butler, Pennsylvania, we had 52,000. When you have 52,000 people show up quickly for a rally, and they got there for 4 days, you set it up 4 or 5 days early, and the people line up 4 days in advance. They stay in tents and things. It's the most incredible thing. And you get there, you leave, you say, there's no way I lost Pennsylvania. There's no way you can lose Pennsylvania. And we didn't, by the way, we didn't. So, it was a hoax. The whole thing was a hoax. And it's too bad, but these rallies are great. There's never been anything. I think we did 56 of them in a short number of days. And they're big. That's not easy to do.
No.
When you think of, you do 3 a day, 4 a day in some cases. And the last couple of days, I think we did 5.
I was with you for a lot of those.
Right, 5. And then you go home and you watch the results. And at 10:30, the election was over. We won. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, you say, what happened? And then you look at these massive dumps where you're going, you look at the votes, and then you have these massive dumps. No, it was a corrupt, fraudulent election.
Well, that brings me to my final question for you. The beginning of this interview, I said, this is one thing everyone always asks me. The other question people all want to know, and I know you're not ready to answer it yet, but do we have hope that there's a possibility to see Donald Trump run again in 2024?
You do have hope. That I can tell you. You do have hope. We love our country. This country, we all owe a lot to our country, but now we have to help our country. And we were there. We were so good. What we did with Iran, what we did with China, we were all set to do some great things. And then you see what's going on right now. China treated our representatives last week in Alaska with such tremendous disrespect. They never talked to me that way. You look at North Korea. I got along with Kim Jong-un, and for 4 years we had no problem. I mean, I was told by President Obama and everybody else that North Korea was our biggest problem. We're going to end up in war with North Korea if that group stayed in. And for 4 years we had no problem with North Korea. Now all of a sudden you see the problem is starting again. No, we have a great country. We have to help our country.
And so we may see a Trump run again in 2024. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I want to say thank you so much for joining us here. We are honored. You were this is the first interview you have done on camera since you left office. Oh. I did call in a favor for this one directly from you. So Thank you for joining us. And we hope that you will come back soon, and we hope to hear from you on either a press release or a social media outlet very soon.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll see you in a little while.